Hey, what's going on, you guys? AK-40 Kevin here. I've had the pleasure of using the Razer Wolverine Ultimate. It's quite a mouthful. For the last couple of weeks, it's my daily driver. I've logged about 30 to 40 hours on it, which is plenty of time behind the sticks in order for me to give you a proper review and judgment. And honestly, I was very pleasantly surprised, and I definitely enjoyed my time with it. As with any Razer product, I have yet to be disappointed. I've tried their keyboards, mouses, I've even messed around with their phone a little bit, and they make some pretty quality products. And I do think this is on the level of an Xbox One Elite controller, which, as you guys know, is, in my opinion, one of the best Xbox or console controllers ever created. So let's hop right into it, and I'm going to give you guys the pros and cons of this bad boy, and some comparison ideas so you know if it's worth the $150 price tag. Oh, Nelly! So first of all, you can tell from just the packaging alone that it's an extremely premium product. The boxing, the instructions, everything is very high quality. And then you open it up and you're introduced with this beautiful carrying case, which is very reminiscent of the Xbox Elite. However, this is actually, in my opinion, kind of a nicer material. It's a little bit softer to the touch, and it still has that hard, that rugged durability that you are going to want if you have a $150 controller. So, controller fits in here just perfectly, and then you get down to the actual build quality of the controller itself, which is pretty impressive. Honestly, I think this feels just as good as the Xbox Elite controller, if not a touch better. And part of that has to do with the triggers and the paddles on the back. Everything has this kind of aluminum feel. If it is plastic, it's some very high quality plastic. And there's a great resistance on the sticks. And then the thing that I really noticed immediately was the A, B, X, Y buttons have this very satisfying click where you barely need to apply any pressure whatsoever. They're highly sensitive and just very responsive, more so than any other controller I've ever played with. So I also really like this little dock on the bottom here. It lets you mute your mic, it lets you switch on the fly between two controller presets, so different button mappings, and then also you can remap buttons on the fly, which is really great. And then also you have 5 levels of volume adjustability, so when you have your headphones plugged in, you don't even need to reach up to your headset to readjust. You can adjust volume on the fly, which is really great for games that have really quiet dialogue and then ear-busting action scenes where you're bleeding from the ears, so that's really nice to have. There are a couple things I did not like. However, I want to cover the pros first because there is a lot more to like about this controller than there is to dislike. So first of all, the RGB lighting looks really cool. However, at night it can be a little bit distracting and disorienting when you're in a dark room and this is scorching your corneas, and there's no way to turn it off from the controller. The only way to adjust the pattern of the RGB lighting or even disable it completely, which as far as I'm 99% sure you cannot turn it off completely, which is kind of a bummer. I wish they had some kind of a button down here where you could adjust the RGB lighting so you didn't need to plug it into your laptop, but you need to download the Razer Chroma app on your computer, and that'll allow you to tweak the settings. They have a breathing mode, a fade mode, a rainbow mode, so several RGB modes, but you can't turn it off completely. Now that's something that I really didn't like, because when you're gaming in a dark room, it is very disorienting and it gets pretty distracting after a while. You don't have to worry about it draining your battery life because, shocker, this is a wired controller. Now that is one major downside to the Xbox Elite controller or any other controller in the $150 flagship price point, is that this is wired, which to me is, it's somewhat of a deal breaker because I hate cords so damned much. Even though this is a very nice braided, really high quality cord, it's just another thing to trip on. It's another thing to have to wind up, and just, you know, one thing I really do like that they included is very reminiscent to the original Xbox controllers. It has this little breakaway, so if somebody trips on it, it's not gonna yank your console out or anything like that. It's just gonna rip out this little section here, which is a nice little safety feature, especially if you have pets or children that are walking around in the living room and stuff. Potentially somebody could trip on it and you could have a little accident with your console. Now, one of the things that really stand out to me as an Xbox Elite owner is just the placement of these paddles. I honestly have to say that these are the best placed paddles I've ever seen on a controller, because they are completely out of your grip, out of your way. When you don't want to use them or you don't want to know that they're there, you can just grip the controller normally and it's very ergonomically correct. You don't feel the paddles at all. But however, when you do need them, all 4 of them are easily within reach. So I think they definitely did a lot of R&D to, you know, different hand sizes and whatnot to see what people were looking for, and this is just a fantastic paddle design. I also do like the trigger locks. They're in a really good position, so when you're gaming you can switch them on the fly. And also, they're some of the best trigger locks I have ever used. Like, it honestly makes the trigger pull so short. I don't know if you guys can see that. It makes it such a tiny trigger pull that it just, they feel great. And then also there's these extra bumper buttons up here, which I've never seen on a controller before, and they are in the perfect place where they're out of the way when you need to hit the bumpers or triggers. However, when you do need to use them, I use them to reload in a lot of shooting games and whatnot. They are perfectly accessible. So honestly, A+ on the paddle layout and these extra bumper buttons, and honestly, the whole, the controls feel really tight. The A, B, X, Y, they have that really crisp click, and it's just really satisfying to play with. Now, I really don't like the fact that it's wired. I mean, that's kind of a big deal for me. There's a couple other cons, the main one being you can't turn off the RGB lighting at night, which can be very distracting. And then also, I'm a big fan of the domed thumbsticks here, but they only come with one, which is weird because I'd like to use 2 domed thumbsticks. However, I had to mix and match and use like a raised one for the right analog and then the domed one over here, which is really weird. That's something that the Elite has definitely one up over it, is they have 6 analog sticks and 2 D-pads, and this has 2 D-pads and 3 or 4 analog sticks, so less customizability with that. They are magnetized just like the Elite, so you just change them on the fly, which is really convenient. D-pad pops out as well. So speaking of buttons here, I completely forgot about the home button. This has like an insanely crisp press. It's a lot more resistance than a regular Xbox controller, and it's also kind of a smooth dome design. It just feels really satisfying to hit, and it's definitely rewarding to use this controller. The grips are also extremely soft and very ergonomically correct. There's these little divots in here that just make them honestly one of the best feeling stock controllers you're going to get out there. But I mean, for $150, honestly, it better put a check in every box, and the ergonomics are definitely correct with this. Let me revert to my notes here to make sure I don't forget any key points here. Oh yeah, so the rumble motors are very strong. It's actually some of the most powerful, well, the most powerful vibration or rumble force motors I've ever felt in the console controller, and it really adds to the immersion. And it's pretty impressive because there's not rumble motors in the triggers like the Elite, just in the bottom here, but they are some very powerful rumble force motors, so that is sweet. So in conclusion, as it stands, this controller I do feel is in the same league, the same realm as the Elite controller, which in my opinion is the best premium flagship stock controller that you can buy. When I say stock controller, I don't mean getting a customized SCUF controller or getting a customized Evil controller, or one of those companies that builds out controllers that end up being like $400 or $500, because, well, you can buy a car for that. But, you know, for the $150 price point, something you can literally pull out of the box and have a premium experience, everything's there. The build quality, the ergonomics, the rumble force motor, the light press on the controls, it's just, and the RGB lighting is really cool. I just wish there was some kind of button on there where you could change the modes on the fly or even turn it off completely. That would be ideal. Also, if they could just make this wireless, maybe the next iteration, the next version of this, they could go wireless. I don't know if they have reasoning behind wanting to go wired, but if they could include this cable and have the option to go wired if you wanted to, or to go wireless, geez. Honestly, if they could get this wireless, be able to turn off the RGB lights, and oh, an easy fix, just included an extra dome thumbstick in the kit. Honestly, those 3 small tweaks, well, I know going wireless is kind of it's kind of a tricky beast, but if they could make those 3 adjustments, I can honestly say I would probably convert over to the Razer Wolverine Ultimate versus my Xbox One Elite, which, as you guys know, I am in love with that thing. I'm also, before I turn this back in, I'm going to be doing a direct comparison between the Xbox One Elite. Now, mine is a little bit customized, but I'm not going to be taking any of that into consideration. I'm just going to be considering the standard stock out of the box Elite versus a Razer Wolverine Ultimate. Now, another thing is the customizability for this is way less because it's not a licensed Microsoft product. The The Elite, all the bits and pieces and components from a regular Xbox controller or an S or an X, they're all interchangeable. So you can add different face plates, you can add different grips, triggers. It's a lot easier to customize and work on, as where there's not so much aftermarket support for this. So, you know, if you don't like this under the radar stealth blacked out design, there's not a whole lot you can do unless you want to customize it yourself by taking it apart and painting the faceplate and all that, which the average gamer, you know, that isn't a huge customizer like myself and isn't obsessed with, you know, having one-off customs and everything, they're probably not going to take the time to do that. So it'd be nice if they had some kind of a sort of a stockpile of customizable parts. But all in all, I mean, this has been a blast to play with this thing. I almost don't even want to turn it back in, but I don't want to go to prison. So yeah, this is an awesome product, and I can highly recommend this for anybody that has $150 to shell out for a premium controller. Take a good strong look at the Elite and take a good strong look at this one. These are really the only two in that price point that I would even consider. There is other controllers that are considered premium flagship controllers for the Xbox, but honestly, it comes down to those two. And if this could just go wired and turn off the RGB and include another dome stick, this would probably take the cake in my book for the best Xbox One controller out there. All right, guys.